up, everybody?
Happy Tuesday. Welcome to our live recording of our podcast, essentially.
That's what we're here for, right? We got some cool stuff we're going to be talking about today. Probably even get to some Q&A, right? We got awesome real estate stuff. And today's one of my favorite things to talk about. So you're all in for a treat. So if you have any questions, make sure you please drop those down in the chat below. If you are tuning in live, can you please put down in the chat where you're from or maybe where you're looking to do deals too? So everybody can kind of network. That's why we do this. And today, speaking of networking, that's what we're about here today is the power of networking, right? And how you're going to be able to make money, how you're going to be able to find deals, and how you can make money together. And that's why I love real estate, because if you do real estate right, everybody should win.
Absolutely. So yeah, if you're joining us, drop in where you're looking to do deals or where you're currently located doing deals. And, I think if we could just start off by really talking about that abundance mindset, guys, because I know sometimes when we're in this business, it kind of feels like if you aren't, the only person doing a deal in your neck of the woods, then, there's not enough deals to go around. And we are telling you that is not the case, that once you can shift your mindset and realize there are so many people out there that need our help. And the more that we can collaborate together and work networking wise, the sky is truly the limit.
And I'm going to go over, maybe it's a mind shift for some of you, because this is true story. Okay, guys, this has actually happened to myself and Jen. When we were going to the banks and financing our rental properties, we were buying, like we talked about, like about one a year. And then when we realized that that was going to run out, we were going to get to number 10 soon. So we need to figure something else out. And we learned about creative finance. We spent a lot of money on our first coach. You could have bought a car for what we spent. And it was one of those things that after we learned that, we had this like secret trick, this secret weapon that we could do to make more deals. Not really a weapon, but it was a secret tactic that really not many people were talking about, which was creative finance, right? How to buy real estate without using a bank, without using your credit, without having to get your W-2 checked, your credit score checked, your debt to income checked. We want your firstborn. You got to run a mile under 5 minutes. All the other hurdles they make you jump through, which, like, once again, it's just a lot. So when we learned how to do it this way, this is what changed everything for us. So in the very beginning, when we were buying these deals, everybody was asking, Joe, how are you buying all this real estate? And we kept it a secret. We kept it a secret because I didn't want my competition to know what I was doing. And by doing that, I was holding ourselves back by that mentality. It did not help us. That hurt us by thinking that way. Because once we started understanding that there's way more sellers out there than there are people looking for these deals, and there's people actually out there who need help. So if we actually showed more people how this worked, there's more people that could help. As great as any one investor is, and there's different levels of this, nobody is going to be able to take up all of the leads anywhere. In a small town, small city, it don't matter. So we kind of had like a light switch go off years back, was like, no, we don't need to keep this as a secret. We need to tell everybody about it. Right? Like, we found this way that changed our lives. And now because of that, we go to events. I see my buddy Colton here. He drove from Georgia to come to our event live. Thank you once again. So, people like Colton and ourselves and many others like you guys are putting in this extra work to meet other people. Live events are awesome. Meeting on Zooms like this, we met a ton of great people. And the power of networking and how we've been able to turn deal after deal after deal just by sharing what it is that we do and how we can network together. So now we actually host live events down here in Florida, just having power networking events, get to meet some live people in person, which is my favorite.
Live people.
Well, live, like in person, like I could shake your hand, I could high five, I could give out some hugs. But... we could do all the fun stuff, right? Because that's where I get, a
re-energized,
great amount of joy. When I get done with that real estate event, I'm jacked. I am pumped up, just like when I do this. And guys, I just want you to know that every Tuesday when we go live, our landscapers know and they wait outside. So if you hear any buzzing, we have an occasional
like literally 2 o'clock. Let's go.
Yeah, Jen's like, they didn't show up yet, the landscapers. I'm like, well, they're waiting for us to hit
So I apologize
record.
if you're listening and you hear something.
But anyways, guys, the power of networking. I just talked to another local investor and I educated that investor on how it is that we buy houses. And I gave her some situations and some stories and some examples, right? And you know what she said? What is your email address? I have a few of these deals that I'm working on that would probably fit exactly for what you're looking to do. And
Where'd
I
you
was
find
like,
her?
Facebook.
Okay.
Facebook. She was just another local investor. And she sends leads like cash deals. Like the other day, she asked me if I wanted to buy a hotel for cash, which really that's not my thing. Um, so it was cool that she just says leads. But then after I got on a phone with her and just explained like what it is that we do, that's what made that connection. So she's like, I've got a couple turnkey houses, and some of these are $1 million, $2 million homes, and they would be open to seller financing. They would be able to let you just take over their payments because they're in a situation where they really want to sell. And this is like high-end houses in Florida. You're talking $2 million, $1 million properties. And she says that stuff probably wouldn't work. That rent to own on that high-end stuff, would it? And I'm like, absolutely it was. Just let's see these leads and let's see if we could do some deals together. So that's the benefit of this networking, guys. So some advice.
Yeah. So if you're not already on Facebook, make sure that you have a profile that is open, that you let people know what you're doing, and then go out there and actually like network and socialize with people through social media. And then, like Joe said, take it off of social media onto a phone call and just have a discussion. That should be some block time every single week. And that is, I consider an income producing activity, because if you can sit and have a great conversation with this person that you just did, like who knows the potential, like that ROI right there.
Oh my gosh. And it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. One of our private clients just recently said he hasn't been on Facebook posting anything in 3 years. So part of when you work with Jenn and Joe, we're like, okay, you're gonna have to brand yourself and you're gonna have to do a better job of that, right? So we need you to actually post on your Facebook who it is that you are, what is that you do. If you're at one of your properties, take a little quick 30-second video, keep on consistently branding yourself as this is what I am. And he's like, just from doing that a few weeks, I can't believe the amount of leads and connections I've already made. It is just contagious, guys. So part of networking is letting the world know that who you are and what it is that you do. You've got friends, you've got family, probably have no idea that you're interested in real estate or that you buy a house or that you're interested in buying a house, right? So branding yourself is huge. Guys, when I started doing this 3 years ago, it was the fall of 2020 where I was out and I was sitting in the woods doing absolutely nothing. Okay. And I looked at my Facebook profile and I had like 330 friends or something like that. And when I realized that I really needed a power of social media to help me, because of her telling me this is not a Joe thing, this is a complete Jenn thing. I started friend requesting real estate investors. I would join real estate investing groups and I would friends request all the ones in there.
Yeah, and it's not like a vanity metric. So you get 5,000 friends, but it's not like, oh, cool, go max out your friends to look cool. Like, no, like put the people on there that you can actually build relationships with and connections and get to know them as people.
Yeah. And so when you look at mine's private. You don't know how many friends I have, but I'm almost at 5,000 right now.
You're one of those.
Well, you can see your common friends, but you don't see all of them. But the neat thing about it is now I'm almost at 5,000 friends 3 years later. And why is that? Because of all of these connections. Many of you guys I got to meet right from there, right? So that's the cool thing about branding and networking and finding online like-minded people. Some connections you're going to make and they're in different states, which is cool. Some people you're going to find are awesome and they're right in your own backyard. So the power of networking is the power of making these connections and finding out how you could all make money together. How can we work together and get rid of that scarcity mindset? It doesn't matter if you're in a small town or if you're in a big city, it doesn't matter. We teach people how to do this right in our own backyard. And I'm happy to teach them that because I know we're going to find deals that we can work on together.
Yeah. And so definitely that's first step of growing branding using social media. And then that second piece, like we kind of talked about already, is like those local meetups in your hometown or in an area close to you. And I just want to share, like we've had people come from all over Florida And we even had a gentleman drive from Georgia, which I believe was about a 16-hour round trip. I'm not saying you have to do that, but if the desire is there and you have the time or the ability to do that, guys, think of how powerful that can be. And I know, speaking to people last time at our local event, it was really interesting chatting with some people because it was their first time actually going to an event. Right. So maybe there's times where you've signed up for one and you want to go, but you come up with every excuse or the internal fear stops you. And I'm going to ask you to really push yourself out of a comfort zone, to try something new, to go make some friends. I promise that real life people aren't scary, right? You're going to find some great connections and, grab a cup of coffee or a soda or a drink and, just start mingling and talking to people, asking them what they do, how you can possibly help each other. And I really think that if you tap into your local markets, if you're living where you want to invest, that's huge, guys. You really want to go to those local meetups. And if there's not one, then try to start one. It can cost $0 if you just try to get a little group together on Meetup or Eventbrite. Post a little Facebook event. If you need help, shoot me a message. I can definitely give you a couple pointers, but it costs $0 to try to get some people together.
Well, and that's the fun part about it, because that's when the magic gets made, is when you're making those connections. And so, guys, so just so you know how well this stuff works, I literally just got a text message from a local investor realtor who was at our last meetup, who, when we got to chatting, I thought he lived in another city. And Jen's like, no, he actually lives right here.
Yeah, right here.
So he just messaged me because I was letting him look at a few deals that I'm working on, because he's also an agent. So he could look at it and talk to the agents too, because you guys have all been hearing about Grumpy Pat.
Oh, snap. We got some live action.
Yeah, well, Grumpy Pat's still being grumpy, but she is like, she doesn't understand this. And this is what he's explaining to me right now is she's got no understanding of how this works. And he says, the pain is there and it's a perfect candidate for us. It sounds like, if I could provide her something visual or written to prove to her that the assumptions are incorrect, you might get through to her. So, because she just doesn't understand, she's a realtor, she's been doing this a long time, but she doesn't understand how seller financing goes. But she, once again, guys, has the same listing. It's been on the market since February. A beautiful house, beautiful neighborhood, gated community. They've dropped the price over $100,000, over 100 grand. It still hasn't sold yet. It's been 220 days plus. It's been on the market for. There's no excuse for a house like that sitting on the market unless it's priced too high, right? The folks just bought it, and they've already bought a second house, which they're living in now, and they are making 2 mortgage payments at the same time, and it's financially bankrupting their family. Plus, they have a newborn. So if y'all haven't had babies before, what that life has got to be like, just having a newborn. I know Colin's got that going on. I know a few of us have gone through that already. So it's tough, right? And babies cost a lot of money. So when you've got a house that's empty that you're paying $3,000 a month for and a new baby, my gosh.
Just the stress of a vacant property on top of the money too. My gosh.
Yeah. So here's where these connections help, because now we're trying to work on Pat together to see if we can get it through. But you know what? Yeah, she's right beside me. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. We'll start them young. That's the way to do it. But so this is the point, guys. So we host meetups every other month, right here in the Sarasota area, Bradenton area. We also go to ones all the time too. This is part of the point of that networking. Mm-hmm. We have a mastermind that we're a part of that we pay quite a handsome amount for every year to be part of, called the Family Mastermind, ran by an awesome guy named Matt Andrews. And there's about 200 of the most amazing people that we've met part of this. They're all coming to Tampa in 2 weeks, and Ron LeGrand comes in, and Jamil and Pace Morby will be there. We're all in the same mastermind together. Steve Trang. So it's really cool to be at these events. And as big as those names are, there's some really big names in there too that kind of fly underneath the radar. So it's just neat being part of these events, and we pay money to even be a part of these events. Right? When we host our events, it costs a little bit of money too, but you don't have to do that. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to cost you anything. You could start one in your own neighborhood or your own community if there isn't one already. So I will give you a super awesome coaching lesson if anybody wants a free lesson. Our coach, who's amazing, says, I want you to go to real estate meetups, but I also want you to host your own in your community.
He thought that was going to be like a really hard thing for us. Like, because it can be intimidating, but little did he know.
I was like, oh my gosh, I'm all about
So
it.
I was so excited to
I am
host it.
I am all about it. Hey Maida, how you doing?
Some people are introverts. My husband is not.
Well, we did a what's it, the personality
Yeah.
test, and we worked with Sharper Solutions. They come in and they make you answer all these questions. And so it tells you, if you're a leader, if you're this, or if you're that. And one of mine that was like super high off the charts was I love connecting and talking with people about awesome stuff.
Real estate.
And my awesome stuff happens to be real estate.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of pleasure out of that. Some don't get as much, but it's just about making the connections. It's not about you. It's about connecting the people, guys. And that's what a true host or a hostess is looking at doing.
Yeah. And really put that in your head too. If you're ever kind of like getting tripped up in your mind of like, oh, I'm nervous to post this or I'm nervous to go to this, just say, I always put myself like, who is on the other side waiting for me to do this? Is it another person looking to learn creative financing? Is it another person that needs help with structuring a deal? Is it someone who's trying to sell their house, or is it a tenant buyer looking to own a home? So there are so many different angles to really, realize it's not about me, it's about other people. And then on top of it, like take it back to your family, like go back to your why. We talk about that a lot too. So if you're struggling internally, definitely, look at the, who is it? Like Tony Robbins or Dean Graziosi, any personal development book. We were just talking about Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, start really working on that mindset, because if you can conquer that, the rest of it is easy peasy. I promise you that. You just need to surround yourself with the right group of people in these network events. But I really want to go back to that, because we can sit here and talk about it. And sure, it looks easy, Jen and Joe, just like go and host a meetup. But it was a little nerve-wracking. I felt, finding the right place and making these great places, people, connections, all of that. And so you just try it out. And if you don't like it, then you try another place. So just like keep going at it.
But you know what, too, and I'm going to give you some advice, guys. Don't make excuses for not doing it, because we have excuses. We live in Florida. We don't have any family down here to help. We brought our kids to the event.
I'm still shocked at the event that we've had here twice now, like the big turnouts that we've had, coming from a small town, upstate New York, where we kind of know everybody, to down here where we knew no one. And to start from scratch, it was exciting and nerve-wracking, I would say, for me. I know you were probably all excited, but
I love it.
But I'm keeping it real. I was a little nervous. Plus, we hired a sitter the first time, and the sitter backed out. But did we use our kids as an excuse? Did I stay home with them? Nope. We brought the kids, guys.
Like backed out like 2 hours before we were supposed
Yeah.
to leave the house. She's like, oh, family issues. I can't come babysit your kids.
So if your kids are, bring them along, have a little activity pack, have some, coloring books with you, but do not use children as an excuse, because they are your future. They're think about their future. And, I think that's really important, and use them as connections, like let them be there building, new relationships with you, because you're leading by example. And I see we've got some friends here too that did make a little trip with their kiddos. I see Zoe.
Hey guys.
And I just, I think it's so powerful, especially if you can connect with your kids now as they're younger.
Oh, and that was really the key too. Like our kids are being raised into this business. When you talk to my son, he's an 8-year-old, guys. And when I say, what do you want to do when you grow up? He's like, well, I want to work for the Creative Finance Playbook. Like that's what he says that. So that's what's really awesome about what we do is the family, they're a part of it. My daughter, she's a part of it. And they're 8 and 10. So when we host meetups, we encourage folks, like if you've got kids, bring them. Well, our kids are going to be there. So bring them, and the kids can have fun too and make those fun connections. So as far as family goes, guys, the other part of that is too, is like involve the part of your family you want to, but then also don't stop because there's that other side of the family who's trying to stop you from doing it. Just forge on to do the best for you, and figure some tactics that really work. And this is why we love our way. Like what we've learned is we buy on terms and we sell on terms. And because of that phrase right there, that's been able to give us the lifestyle that we've wanted to. And what our coach has said is you should be knowing your net worth, and tracking it every single week. And when I started breaking down some of that stuff and we started doing it together, like you're like, wow, like this stuff is starting to really pay off. So rather you're starting your own real estate portfolio, maybe you've got one house, maybe you don't even have one deal yet. That's fine. Maybe you've got a bunch, and that's even better. Doesn't matter. You're supposed to be starting where you are right now, and that's the best part about it. But implementing the right strategies will help you get to where you want to go much faster. Okay. And so once again, that's why I'm a huge, huge person of networking, because I think that is huge. You're just going to grow much, much faster. That's why when we started doing this Tuesday live, I don't know how long ago we started doing this.
You started last summer, kind of. You and Abby kind of started doing every Tuesday while I was packing up our house and moving.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So we've been doing this for over a year, and I just love coming and talking about this
Yeah.
thing too, and sharing what's been working. So guys, there's a lot of folks out there who really need some help right now. So meeting realtors, meeting other wholesaler investors, right? And then sharing what it is that how you can help them. So what does that mean, Joe? What does that mean I could help them? Don't ask for, hey, do you have any dead leads? Like you see some of these people posting in groups. No, that doesn't always work. So what I always like to do is actually get on a phone call with somebody and I say, I bought a condo recently. The lady wanted, top dollar for it. But the way I made that work was with seller financing, where I bought it with $5,000 down and she financed the balance at 1.5% for me. All the other cash buyers were offering her like 200,000. It didn't work, but she was motivated to sell. And then I ran into another situation. We just got a deal under contract in Cleveland, Ohio. The guy just bought the house. He's already moving out, can't afford it anymore. And he says, I don't want to make any money. We just simply said, if I buy your house, can I just take over your old payments? And he said, yeah, that's fine. Because he can't afford it anymore. And he knows that if he were to list it on the market, he might have to write a check because of closing costs and all of these things. And this is a turnkey house that was just renovated, guys, a little over a year ago. So these are the situations I'm coming across. So, if you're coming across any of these too, and you're working with a seller who's maybe motivated and they might be open to seller financing, or maybe the cash offers are just way too low and they owe too much, even if it's a turnkey house, I actually like those a lot more. I could buy those the way we buy real estate. And you just have that simple conversation. That's why I'm happy recording this. So if you just are listening, you could rewind that, take some simple notes, but just explaining how you could benefit that realtor and that seller in these situations. And then all of a sudden, you're going to have little light bulbs go off in the other person's head. Now, I always ask, do you have any deals that you're currently working on to kind of fit that situation? And I've called realtors before looking at one house and that one won't work out for seller financing, but I say that and they say, no, that one won't work, but this one might. So make sure when you tell somebody how you can help them, you also ask them if they have anything that they're currently working on that fits that situation.
And I'm going to bring it back a little bit. When we took this full time in 2020, we kept meeting because again, we were all stuck at home, right? Especially in New York. And we kept meeting with a local investor up in Rochester through Zoom. He didn't do no creative at all, but we explained exactly what Joe said. And sure enough, he came across a seller who needed full price, and we ended up being able to put money into his pocket with a lead he wouldn't been able to do anything with. And then we were able to buy that creatively and place a tenant buyer. And so by taking some time and really, giving him kind of like a little bit of education as far as like what you needed and what you were looking for, it paid off.
I mean, if you think about it, that was some of our first coaching we were doing. We're coaching other investors of how to get deals to us.
Yeah. So I'm peeling back the layer here, like where we first started full time, and that's where Joe said we were a little nervous to kind of share like how we were doing it. But then we realized like, that's so stupid. Like there's so much to share. And that, that way this investor was able to put us in connection with these sellers. And then also he got paid on that lead.
Yeah, we gave him $5,000 for that deal, guys.
That he would have thrown in the garbage.
Yep. Seller had a turnkey house. It was beautiful. They owed, more than he could pay for it. Plus, it didn't need any work. So give him a low cash offer wouldn't work. And they were moving out of state to Arizona from New York. And guys, we bought that deal with just paying him and some closing costs. Yeah. And this is a nice house in a nice neighborhood. And if you don't know, it's in Hilton, New York, which is a nice area. Turnkey house. So once again, we shared what was working, and he says, wait a second, I got a deal for you, right? And then another friend of ours is the same thing. He's a real estate investor. I don't know if he might be here today. Sometimes he pops in. He's from Rochester. He lives in Detroit, and we mentioned to him how this works. And he brought a lead that I helped him with, and he got it for creative finance. And then he made the mistake and took his wife there, and she loved the house, and they end up buying it for themselves to live in as their own primary
I think it
residence.
was a mistake.
Wasn't a mistake. Well, he told me, he was like, man, I thought we were going to have this nice, beautiful rental. And he's like, I took my wife there, and she's like, oh, honey, I love this house. Why don't we just move into it themselves? And they did, and they still live there. So it's really, really cool. And so, yay, we're helping out people buy their own home to live in. We're helping other investors make some money. We're that dead lead, that's what it is. But I can't just frame it as calling it a dead lead, because they don't really understand what that means, right? So, hey, do you ever have a seller who's got a beautiful turnkey house that doesn't need any work, but they're in a situation and they need to sell it? Like, I might be able to buy that one, because I want to have a little homework for all of you. You want to have some fun? Who wants to have some fun? Raise your hand for some of you who are on here. You want to have some fun?
Putting you to work.
Have any of you in your own city? And if you haven't, it's going to do the red car theory, right? Because if I tell you about red cars now, you'll be seeing red cars all over the place. I could put a thought in your head just by telling you something like that, right? So when you're around your city, I want you to look on phone poles while you're out driving, and all the different areas where you might see a yellow sign or a white sign that says, I buy houses cash, or I buy houses. Does anybody see those signs in your area? Because I know they're everywhere. Okay. They're in your area. Trust me, unless you live like in the middle of nowhere. And I bet you there's some out there
even
too.
there, it probably works really well.
So I want you to do me a favor. I want you to, next time you see one of those, I want you to pull over. I want you to write down that phone number, and I want you to call them.
You can even just take a picture.
You don't have to call them right on the side of the road, right? But take the phone number and the information. When you get to a safe spot, call them, right? You're not on the side of like the expressway or something. I want you to call them and say, hey, I have a beautiful house that's turnkey. It doesn't need nothing. And I see that you guys buy houses. So I want to know if you'd be interested in buying my house. Before I give you the address, I just want to know, do you guys buy like turnkey, beautiful houses? And you know what they're going to say? No, I don't. We look for houses that need a lot of work. And we're looking for a junker that we can get at a big discount. But you don't think for a second those people still get phone calls saying that I've got a turnkey house? They do all the time. I've called tons of those guys. And I do the same thing every time. Hey, I've got a beautiful house, doesn't need nothing. I saw your sign close to my house, so I figured I'd ask you if you guys would pay cash for it. And every single time they say, no, if it doesn't need anything, it's beautiful, just list it with the realtor. So those are the buyers, or the buyers that I'm going to reach out to and make that connection on a different phone call and say, hey, I see you guys have signs out here that you buy houses. Do you ever run into turnkey, beautiful houses where the seller wants to sell them because maybe they're in a situation, but it needs no work and they want full price? Like, don't throw those out in the garbage. I buy those, and I will pay you money for every one of those I could buy. If you come across any one of those where maybe they just owe too much, or the house doesn't need any work and it doesn't fit for y'all, before you throw that in the garbage, call me up, send it to me. And if I could buy that deal, I will send you guys money, because the way I buy real estate, I can make those deals work, even if they want almost too much money for it. It's a free way to get leads, guys, by networking. Because you know what you'll do is now you're going to have everybody else working for you too, bring in new leads. When we have a rent to own property available, or if I'm looking to buy a house, I tell everybody I pay $1,000 for referrals of any property that I buy or sell. So if I have a property available for rent to own, and I'm putting out my Facebook page, and I say, hey, $1,000 for anybody who brings me a buyer who moves in. Now I've got all my friends on Facebook, all my followers saying, I wonder if I've got somebody who's looking for a rent to own home. So I'm going to talk about branding yourself once again, guys, and why it's so important. It's just taking a selfie of yourself and making a post on a Facebook page. If you're in investor groups, especially local ones, we do all the time. I will take a picture of myself and my wife. Hey guys, my name is Joe. My name is Joe. It's my wife, Jenn. We buy houses all around this area. Right. We could even buy turnkey, beautiful houses if you have anything. Right. And these are just easy posts to get out there, and you'll have realtors reach out to you. You'll have investors reach out to you. It just happens. So, and if it doesn't happen, post it again in a different group, guys. There's going to be leads coming your way for free. So you've all heard on Bigger Pockets how we talk about how to join Facebook groups for free and post the blue sign thing that we talk about in these groups. And one of our Clients last week in just one group got like 20 responses. You know, a lot of them are realtors too, but realtors bring you deals, guys. So this is why it's important to generate leads in massive ways, and connections are going to be one of the best ones, because when you get a personal referral, those deals, you're a lot more likely to make those.
Right.
So when I advertise in our own city, hey guys, if I'm looking to buy a house, and if anybody sends me one that I buy, I'll send you $1,000 for a thank you. When my buddy called me, who I've known forever, it was like, hey, my wife's best friend's, family just passed away, and she just inherited this house and needs a lot of work. Would you guys want to buy it? Because I saw that you give $1,000 away. And I was like, if I buy it, I'll give you $2,000. He's like, well, geez, you guys better buy it then. I was like, well, you're right. We better, huh? Right. So it was just like that, guys. We even took the video of us giving them the check.
And again, so cost of marketing there, essentially, it was free to market unless we actually bought the house. So I know $1,000, $2,000 might seem like a lot, but when you can make a decent profit off of a flip, or if you place a tenant buyer and you've got a crazy amount coming back as far as monthly cash flow and your big end payday there, it's not that big of a deal. So I need also to start that mind shift there, where it does take sometimes to let go of money to get more money too, to kind of get that.
And don't be a cheap person. Don't
Yeah.
be cheap. If you're going to make 20, 30, 40, $50,000, you could pay somebody $1,000 or $2,000 if you make that deal. It's not going to break your bank. Trust me. And I will tell you, if you give that person $1,000 or $2,000, anybody in North America that ever thinks about selling their house and they get wind of it, they're going to be telling you about that deal. Okay. So I will tell you, don't be cheap with people, take good care of people, and they will do the same back for you. In the car business, when I was learned, we call it a bird dog. Anybody who brought you a sale, you always paid them money every single time, right? And some of the best salespeople I worked with, who are the ones that paid the most. So I don't need anybody to pay 10 grand or nothing crazy. But if you were to make 100, would you? You never know, right? I probably would. So guys, connecting is going to be key. We also host, like I said, local meetups. Do those in your area. If there's not a Facebook group in your area that has real estate investing, start one. And then if you have other real estate investors that you've been friends with, invite them to join your group. And these groups will start growing rapidly. So I know I've got some friends here who are in the Orlando area. I'd be starting one in Orlando real estate meetup or something like that, or some group, right? I got some folks here in Rochester. We got people all over the country. We got a whole lot of you in here today. So if you're down in Georgia, if you're down in St. Pete, wherever you are, start a Facebook group, invite all your real estate investing friends to that group, and then let the thing just grow. And now you own the group too.
Yeah, people buy groups. Did you know that?
Oh, yeah.
Crazy.
There's one I've been trying to buy.
You're trying to buy one yourself?
Yeah.
What?
The guy won't want to sell it, but he doesn't want to maintain it anymore. And it's got like 20,000 people in there. So I keep on asking him nicely. I'm a moderator in it. He'll let me be the moderator and have my way with it, but he won't want to sell it yet. So maybe just find one in your area that you can either be a moderator on. I'm going to give you a secret trick, y'all.
Write this one down.
And it's not really that crazy to think about, but if there is a real estate group in your area, or a big buy and sell garage sale group where you want to post your blue ad in a lot, and there are some that are just wild and they have a lot of comments, I reach out to the owner of the group and just say, hey, my name is Joe. Love the group. I've been a member for a while now. Do you need any help with me being a moderator? I already help out in a few other groups, and I could help clean up some of the spam in here. Huge fan of the group. I use it. Would you like me to help you as a moderator, and I'll help clean up some of the spam in here too? Because I got some groups, guys, I'm a part of. If I go put one of my rent to own houses in there and the peanut gallery goes scam, you're a lot less likely to do that when you see it's a moderator posting a property that they have. And if they're still a knucklehead, you have the option if you want to launch them or keep them, right? You're a moderator in their group. You get to pick. So that's another great reason too. So I'm a part of, there's a Tampa one. It's got 25,000 people in it. I'm a moderator in that group. There's another big one that I'm a moderator. It's got like 30,000 people in. And then we've got our own groups that we run ourselves. And I mean, to give a cool story, because I got Maida here. But I started a group in upstate New York. There was a big one, and for some reason, Facebook shut down. I didn't have that group, but it was gone. And I knew the owners of the group. They said, yeah, Facebook shut them down. So I started one similar to that. And I already got a few thousand people in there. And then one day in my group, I see my blue ad. Does anybody have a house for sale that's not market ready? I'm looking to buy one in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And it's my buddy, Leonard Miller. Okay. Posting it in my group. And he got some leads out of it too. I'm like, man, look at this up in my group doing it and it's working. So I'm proud because that's what it's about, guys. There's way more than enough deals that we could ever get to, even in a group that you run with a couple thousand people in it. So here's just some tips on network with people, strategies for getting you leads. Because once again, as this market is starting to change, and I don't know if you guys have noticed it in your own business, but there's people who are now starting to run into a little bit of an issue selling their home. Mm-hmm. And how it was 1 year ago, 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, there was no reason you should have been in a jam trying to sell your house on the market. You could put it and you'd get tons of people walking through opening weekend, get multiple offers over asking usually. And if you had a sale at asking, you were shocked, right? Now it's not happening, not at a 7.5 going on 8% rate. It's slowed down quite a bit. So there's actually folks out there who are really in a jam right now and who need some help. So what I was doing today is I went through our CRM, which is the system where we hold all of our seller leads in. And I started looking back from people that I talked to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months ago. And I just say, hey, Stacy, I know that we chatted a few months ago about 123 Apple Street. Is your house still available or do you sell it already? First of all, I copy the address, I put it in Zillow, and I'll see it still pending or not pending. I'll still see it available, or I'll see no sales, right? They never even listed it and it's still just off market. I'll hit that up and I cannot believe how many people are coming back out of the woodwork say, no, it's still available. All over the place. I'm talking Miami, Florida. I've got a guy right now who built a brand new house right outside of Tampa. It's 90% finished. And he doesn't have the money to finish it. And he's about to go give it back to the bank because he can't afford it anymore. We're running into all types of situations. Guys who's like, no, I'll finish it. Now he's not finishing it and he's behind on his payments. Right. So these are out there everywhere. So follow up. I'll say it 100 more times, but I'll spare you guys. If you've talked to a seller before, don't just, if they say no, throw it in the garbage. Most people are going to say no, especially on the very first phone call or first contact. Don't be surprised when they do. You should actually almost like encourage that to happen because now you're getting closer to a yes. But if you get that lead and say, oh, well, they said no, throw that right in the garbage. You're never going to do deals. You're going to be spinning your wheels like a hamster. You really got to get that traction, which is talking to new leads constantly, but following up with the old ones. And that follow-up is going to be where you're going to be making a lot of your deals. So a lot of them we're still making now, we talked to in August, and now it's September, right? We talked to them in July, and now they're doing a deal. How many times have I talked to a seller, or Lexi should be here too, just to come be part of this, but I guess she's busy. So I get it.
She's literally texting you.
Oh, is she? She's working. Well, you're right. She is.
Yeah. But yeah, she's just really busy too. I would say it's interesting. We had a seller that he was all ready to sign, but I think his wife was kind of like, oh, I want to do it the traditional way, right? Not the creative way. But he was kind of like, he could understand where we were coming from and what was happening in the market. So I think he listed it for like a day or two to kind of make wife happy. And he had a real estate friend. And then already last night, he was like sending over mortgage statements and like, hey, can you guys still help me out? Don't drop me. Like, I really want to work with you. And so that's starting to really turn over. That was not the case a couple of months ago. And so now really is the time. So let's say like earlier in the year, you were maybe hitting the gas pedal hard, took a little break because of the summer. Guys, go back to those leads, follow up with them, see if they, hey, did you sell your house at yada, yada? And if they didn't, like, try to rework that a little bit, ask some more of those questions because you just never know time and circumstance. If their house didn't sell and they still want to sell, they may be, honestly, they probably will be more open to terms.
Yeah, well, and that's the point, guys, too, is how many times I've had sellers tell us that, well, I'm going to list it with my agent instead. Terms, I don't want to do that. I'd rather just sell it. I'm going to list it with my agent. Have you heard that before? Because if you have, that means you're talking to sellers.
You're doing the thing.
If
you're
you
supposed to.
haven't, you need to talk to some sellers. Okay, let me tell you, because you'll hear that a lot. So the way I just constantly follow up with them, and let me tell you, if it sells opening weekend, high five. If it
Congratulations.
sells and I do, I congratulate 2 people today, by the way.
Good.
I'm like, hey, I saw your house has a pending sale on Zillow. Congratulations. Send them a little message, right? Every single time. However, there's a lot of these folks who says that I'm going to listen with my agent, and now they're reaching back out saying my agent didn't sell that house.
Yeah.
And so this is key, absolute key. We have a few of those we're doing, and now Lexi, I'll read y'all a live message. She says, hi for Malcolm Brandon. I'm writing that up now. He doesn't owe as much as he thought. So the purchase price would be 117 instead of 126. Can you call me when you get a chance? I'm getting a little confused writing it up. I will tell you, I love Lexi because writing up creative finance deals for her are easy peasy lemon squeezy. When it comes to writing up a cash deal, she's like, man, I still get a little
Need some help.
and they're even easier, but I will be more than happy. So that's going to be a cash deal, guys. So this is a gentleman who has a mobile home and is willing to sell it. He says, I just want to walk away from 30,000. He's like, I know it's worth more. It needs a little bit of work inside, but I see them all selling for like in the twos, low to mid twos in that area. So,
also, kind of circling back here to the networking. I know we're getting a little sidetracked.
Sorry, we got stuff going on.
Cool. I wanted to bring up when we went to a local Tampa Bay meetup with our buddy, the Tampa Bay Initiative. I believe it is Thursday, September, what is it, 26th? Is that what it is? 28th, sorry. The 28th. Try to grab some tickets there. If you need them, definitely send us a message or hit us up in the group. I know they're in there too. But we've met such amazing people there that I connected with another investor and he posts on Instagram, and I enjoy following him. He was sharing one day a reel, and he was like I'm watching it. It's like, hey, wholesalers, this is not a deal. And he explains why you can't lock that up in a wholesale deal because the lady owed way too much. It was worth more. All the things that to me screamed, this is a terms deal. So I politely commented, hey, like, could you ask for terms? And he has never done terms before. So needless to say, we hopped on a call and we're able to help that seller out. And it was in Baltimore. So that was kind of exciting. Our first Baltimore deal there. And she was in a jam. That seller definitely, wholesaling was not going to work. You could not give her half of that amount because she owed.
Yeah, she bought it recently. It was a 3-unit. I think we talked about it here ways back, and it didn't work out for cash.
Right.
She just lost her job, and so she was taking the rent money. She was collecting almost 4,000 a month, and she was taking that money to pay for food and things like that, but wasn't paying the mortgage payment. So she got like almost $16,000 behind on her mortgage payment. So between her balance of what she owed, paying that back payments, if she were to list it with a realtor, a 6% commission and closing costs, that was way out of whack. She would have had to write a check for 15, 20 grand. And she talked to her realtor friend, and her realtor friend told her that. So then she got desperate because she was so far behind. She starts reaching out to everybody online who says, we buy houses. Remember, I talked about that earlier. And all the people that said we buy houses were all giving her low cash offers of like 240. She owed like 330 plus her back payments. Right. So it did not work for a cash buyer. It couldn't work for selling it in the market. She's literally about to give this house, this 3-unit, back to the bank. And if you think, if you're one of the people renting this, one of the 3 different families renting it, like you're about to have your house go back to the bank besides. So she's going to eventually unhome these people, or the bank would. Like that's going to turn into a nightmare. Plus her credit's going to get grenaded just from simply losing her job.
And this is just one example.
Guys, when I talked to the seller, it was an amazing creative finance deal because her interest rate was 2.8%. Fixed for 30 years. And her payment was only $1,900 a month, including taxes and insurance. And that sucker rents for $4,000 with all 3 units. So the cash flow is phenomenal. So all you had to do was just get her caught up on her back payments, cover some closing costs. And we even put a couple grand in her pocket at closing, which she thought this deal was too good to be true and it wasn't going to happen. And are we going to be really doing this deal? Because it sounds too good to be true. Meanwhile, everybody's thrilled on that deal, right? Who gets a 2.8 interest rate these days and could cash flow $2,000 a month on a 3-unit? It's already rented.
Yeah. And just that, again, I go back to, if I hadn't met, his name is Cody, if I hadn't met Cody in person, shook his hand, had that face to face connection, then I don't know if I would have followed him on Instagram and, paid attention to what he was posting, because again, just that, like, taking that next level in person meetup, like, you can get a sense of who people are and who you want to do business with. So that is an example of how to partner. That is, we were able to split the proceeds there on that deal. We assigned it to someone else. And so I know that was kind of a question that I saw in the side chat here about partnering. And that's our favorite way to partner. You could call it JVing as well. But really, where you have two parties, working to get a deal done and assign that to another buyer.
Yeah, and he had a buyer who bought that for a $20,000 assignment fee, which we split.
Yeah.
So for his dead lead, he got 10,000. We did too. Not a bad day's phone call, right? I mean, 10,
And I was just playing on Instagram, watching reels. Who would have thought, right?
yay! So I let her play on Instagram all she want, girl. Go have at it.
Yeah.
And another one we made was at that same event where we met a local wholesaler. His name is Nick. We kind of met him before then, but he hosts the event, and we wholesale the deal with him in Tampa. Same thing, listed in the market. Seller about to go through foreclosure, couldn't sell it any less, and the house wasn't selling, but had a 3% rate and a low payment on a turnkey house in Tampa. That one worked for Creative Finance, and we JV'd on that one too. And now he and I are also JVing on another Creative Finance deal here in Clearwater, Florida. So these connections at these group guys just are so fruitful.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say it enough. So,
and also, even if you don't partner with somebody, like, the people you can call. Like, if we have a deal that lands a little bit outside of our, well-known comfort zone, like Miami, to me, those numbers are wild down there. Like, I can't make heads or tails of some of those areas because I don't live there. Whereas Tampa, we know the hot spots and what places are worth and such.
We're figuring it out.
We're figuring out, but definitely Miami was like, whoa. So rely on the people that you can, so really, again, those connections are invaluable in the areas that you're investing in.
Because I saw one of my buddies in here, Jesse Stratton's in here.
Yeah.
And so whenever I have a deal in Alaska, is he still here?
I think so.
Yeah, there you are. Anytime I have anything going on in Alaska, like, he's the go-to guy. Like, Alaska, like, he gets the whole state for him, right? Because he knows what he's doing, does a great business, and he lives in Alaska too. He's one of the people who is crazy enough that wants to live in the cold. But no, in all honesty, like, he's the guy for Alaska. So if I'm ever working on something like, hey, I got a deal, it's in Alaska, what do you know about this area? And when you make those great connections, it all comes back to you too. And there's a lot of great people. I'm seeing all your names in here, by the way. And there's a lot of great people, even on this Tuesday Zoom at 2:00.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to say, it's these connections. And that's why we come on here and do this every single week, is to get to meet more of you guys. And I see we got Georgia in the house. I see we got Savannah in the house. I saw New York. I got Fort Myers, Cape Coral here,
Jacksonville,
Denver.
Yeah.
San Diego. We got it all over in here.
Go back through and, friend each other on Facebook and make those connections. Go through the Facebook Creative Finance Playbook group and type in the search bar, put your area you're looking to invest, and just, again, like, take those steps and reach out and connect.
Yeah, so you're gonna tell them one of the secret tricks then, aren't you?
Oh, did I just spill
Good,
the beans?
I like it. So
here are giving away more free good stuff.
So here's what you guys want to do if you want to find out who are some movers and shakers. When I'm looking at a deal and we get one in, I don't know, Columbus, Ohio. I just pulled that city. I'm going to go to all the big Facebook groups, and I'm going to go to their
big real estate Facebook.
Yeah, groups. Facebook real estate groups. So what does that mean? I'm going to go to ours. I'm going to check out Pace Morbies. I'm going to go to all the Burr groups, seller finance groups, the bigger pockets groups, right? And then I'm going to type in Columbus, Ohio. But not when I go in the group, I'm going to actually look for all the members where it shows you the list of all the members. And then in that section, there's a search bar, and I type in Columbus, Ohio, and it'll show you everybody who has Columbus, Ohio in their bio. Now, some might say I'm from there, but I live somewhere else now. But many of these people say I live there. Now, if I see somebody who looks like they're doing a lot of real estate business, like, oh yeah, friends request, they're all going to get it. And then I'm going to talk to them about this deal I have that I'm working on. Right. And maybe they want to be a buyer for it too. So Facebook is such a valuable tool. Guys, I'll be honest with you. I do not like social media. I see people fighting, getting wild, all the political crap, the people.
A lot of it's garbage. You almost have to train your brain to only look for what you're looking for.
Yeah. But just like anything else, you got to move some dirt to find the gold. So social media could be a gold mine too. So stay off the fights, stay off all the other stuff, and just do it to network and be a part of a community, guys. And it will be just so beneficial to you. And do a Facebook audit on yourself too. Before you start putting a lot of stuff out there, what does your own page look like? Is it locked up and nobody could tell? Because I will tell you what, if you try to get into our Facebook group and you don't have a profile picture, you're launched. I don't even let you in. Sorry if any of you are fitting that category.
He's
You're
the
not in the group.
gatekeeper there. I don't even mess with it.
Because once again,
There's too many spam.
yeah, there's a lot of spammers on there. So once again, do a little bit of an own audit check. What does your Facebook page look like? Are you doing keg stands and partying, or does it say like, I buy houses? Right? Because if you're going to be taking this business serious, you want to make sure that your brand is serious. And that goes a long way. So just drop some fun little hints, and there we go. So I saw we have a couple questions in here. We got a few minutes. You want to?
Yeah.
You want to do them?
Sorry.
Oh, I saw. What was that personality test?
The predictive index.
That was one of the
PI
questions.
test,
Is a PI test, predictive index, which basically will. And it's kind of weird too, because they start telling you like all this stuff about yourself, and I'm like, oh.
Like it said, I had the ability to sit for a very long time. Like I can stay super focused for hours. You were like minutes, right? It was
Seconds even.
Whereas like his personality, the B was like off the charts. Like get him in front of social settings, he can just sit here and talk forever. And I was like, I can do it, but I'm gonna need like a data recharge after being around a bunch of people, it seems.
Yeah, so those charts are really cool because they'll tell you about who you are, but also too, if you're going to hire somebody, who you're going to bring onto your team, it gives you a little bit of a snapshot of who they are.
We should implement that.
I know, because I know what Gary Harper.
Yeah, they won't hire if certain things. So it's interesting.
Yeah, and if like some of your things are off, like they won't hire you based on the results of your test. You're not a good fit. I was like, holy cow, imagine that.
Yeah, like if it takes a long time for you to catch on to something, that could be an indicator. If you don't have a lot of patience to teach somebody something, then it is interesting. But don't spend too much time on that. And I would not recommend giving that to your seller or buyer.
Yeah, I heard somebody doing that before. Somebody did that.
Yeah, they did once upon a time in a long, long
imagine you had a seller. Imagine if you had a seller and you're like, before I could buy your house, I need you to take this predictive index test so I can see
your house on a wrap. Maybe you want to know what kind of person you're dealing with. Either way,
I'm not going to send them.
We're going to go back to the questions here. Okay. If a seller sells on a wrap, can they ever get another bank mortgage, or does it continue to affect their DTI? Is there a way around this?
Is. Yeah. So great question. We get that often, one of the big ones. So that's why I love buying on a wrap. Why? Is because the wrap means there was a new mortgage or a new note recorded showing the new payments that you are making, or your LLC or your trust are making, right? So that's going to help them be able to qualify for a mortgage. So the question came up not too long ago. If they want to qualify for a mortgage like immediately, a wrap's not going to work. And they're all going to tell you the same thing. They're going to need 12 months of payments to count that. But if the seller's open to seller financing still, how we do that, guys, and this is really awesome, I write it up as a lease purchase, because the loan officer could use the lease agreement immediately, and they could use that income immediately. Here's the best part. I'm going to tell you all a little secret. They could only write off 75% of that debt to the income. So what does that mean, Joe? I'll tell you. Your payment's $1,000 a month, and I write up a wrap for $1,000 a month, right? And I make my 12 payments. Well, at the end of the 12 months, they're only able to use 75% of that. Most lenders, almost all of them. So there's still a little bit of money that's not able to be wiped off of their debt. But if I buy it with a lease purchase, it also does the same thing, but I could do it immediately. But who doesn't say if their payment's $1,000 a month that I'm not renting it for $1,400 a month, which then wipes off the 75% of $1,400, which is about that $1,000. And now you're even, Steven. If I said that too fast, just rewind it, because there's some gold right there. So what happens is now, if I'm writing up a deal under a lease purchase and that the seller knows that once I'm going to execute my option to buy, that I'm going to be buying it with a wrap mortgage with seller financing, and I'm not going to be getting a bank loan, and I'm not going to be using paying cash, and then I'm going to buy it with seller financing, they could use that lease agreement right away to qualify for their house right away. After they qualify and they close on their property, at some point shortly after, I'm going to execute my option to buy with a wrap mortgage and seller financing. What does that do, Joe? That makes them get their new loan now, and I could still buy their house. And if you really want to know what's even better about that is, if I have it under a contract that I'm going to buy it this way, I'm going to be looking for my rent to own tenant buyer ahead of time, because my rent to own tenant buyer might give me 10, 20, 30, $40,000 to put down on that deal to move into it. So at closing, if I have to come up with closing costs 2 months later when I'm ready to execute my option to buy, and I need $5,000, $6,000 for closing, you know where I'm going to get that from? The non-refundable option deposit that my tenant buyer gave me when they first moved in. So guys, that's a way to do a deal with absolutely no money down, no money of your own to get that done, and to help out your seller get their new mortgage right away. Sorry if I went too fast. I'm trying to be accordingly, but that is.
Put it up on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. We're on there.
Yeah. So let's just reiterate one more time. What is the ideal lead that would do well with creative finance?
Okay. So somebody, I'll go over an ideal lead that doesn't. Somebody who needs all cash and they need it now. That's not creative finance, right? I got a $500,000 house and I need 500,000 and I need it now and I need it all in cash, or, you know, you taking out a loan. It doesn't work for them. So who does it work for? It could work for anybody in any situation. Some people have a lot of equity. Some people have some houses that need a little bit of work. Some are complete junkers and they're still open to creative finance. Some, they're absolutely pristine, multi-million-dollar properties. Some are commercial buildings. Some are hotels. Some are car washes. Some are multifamily, right? So there's not really ever a one fits all type of a situation. These deals are made, they're not found. And so how are they made is by having to ask the right questions. I should just share it, but Ron LeGrand, who is the godfather of this stuff, who's been teaching us for over 20 years, and we get to see him in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
What up? He talks about how I don't make offers. I ask questions. And if the seller asks me a question, I answer that with a question for them. So you just got to be great a question asker, right? Get great at asking the right questions. What's the least you would take? What's the longest you would? Would you be open to terms if I paid that price? It can work on anything, guys. It can work on a car, because I see a lot of people trying to do sub 2 on cars and stuff like that. Be careful with that stuff, boy. I will tell you, that's not a great idea. You're
Mom
thinking of
is
stuff.
the goat. I forgot. I have to leave. Take our daughter to her.
Oh, well, then it's me.
So if you want, there are a few more questions here, but
yeah,
I apologize. I must go.
Thank you, Dara.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Have a great day.
I'm going to finish up these questions, and then I'm not too far behind you, dear.
Yeah, right. You'll be here for hours.
I would be. Because love you. Okay. I'm just curious if you have a 10-year term and none of your tenant buyers buy and the term ends, how do you handle this with the seller? So that's a great question. Say that's the worst case scenario and that's what happens. I could go back to the seller and say, okay, if you want to still keep the property, right? Because you could still sell it. If you've paid down what you've owed on it in the last 10 years, you hopefully have some really good equity in there. So say you put in a rent to own buyer, maybe you put in 2 or 3, and for the last 10 years, for some reason, it doesn't sell. Well, if that's the case and that's what happens, I would, me personally, look at what I could list it for. It's just selling it on the MLS. Worst case scenario, I could go back to the seller and say, hey, Mr. Seller, I have a renter in there and they're still getting close to buying, and I just need a little bit more time. I could ask for an extension. It could be just a simple email, guys. I don't need to do paperwork or stuff like that. They could just simply email me and just say, yeah, I'll give you another 1-year extension. Just that simple. What happens if Mr. Seller says, absolutely not? Well, then you've got some choices. And this is why I buy properties into a land trust. And this is why what we call with seller financing or non-recourse debt. What does non-recourse debt mean, everybody? That if you give the property back to the lender, the only thing they could come after to get back is the property. They can't come after you personally. So if you do give that property back to the seller, maybe they say, absolutely not, I'm taking the property back. I'll just deed them the property back if that were ever to happen to me. But that thing will be long gone before that happens. I believe me. So to answer your question too a little bit better, if I have a 10-year term, I'm going to put a renter in that's going to usually take 3 or 4 or 5 years anyways. If they get to that 5-6 year mark and they haven't got done yet, we need to figure out why. I've always collected enough money up front, so money is not the issue. And with many times with rent to own, the problem is you didn't get a big enough option deposit, right? You got a $400,000 home and you collected $3,000 for them to move in. That's not enough. I got a $400,000 home. I'm going to collect probably good $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, if not more. So if I have that big of a house, a $400,000 home, you better believe I'm going to get a big non-refundable option deposit. The next part about that too is it their credit? Is it time on job? Things like that. Guys, you got 10 years. And if you had to put in a second tenant buyer, you still can, right? And still have plenty of time. So some renters, rent to own people, you'll notice they need to get cash out. They'll get cash out quick, and some will maybe take a little bit longer depending on when you get your file back. So that's how I handle that. Sorry, I'm getting more messages. Lexi's busy. If I had to start all over again from scratch, 0 cash, day one, what is your first step, Brian? Brian, that's a great question. I would join every Facebook group. I would listen to the podcasts and all the ones that are out there. I would find out who some serious buyers are. And then I would post that blue ad everywhere. Does anybody have a house for sale that's not market ready? I'm looking to buy one in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And I would go into these Facebook groups and I change that background color to blue, green, pink, whatever. And I'd post it into 5 to 10 Facebook groups every day. Now, these Facebook groups usually have 20, 30, 40,000 people in them or more. I need to generate off-market leads for free. That is the best way to do it. I don't know a better way. Driving for dollars, you can still do that, but you got to have a car and that costs gas money. Facebook, as long as you have an internet connection, you can do that for free. I'm getting incoming leads. I'm going to go to creativefinanceplaybook.com. I'm going to download our script for free. So it's the 10 questions that we ask sellers. It's the same ones our team does with all the rebuttals in there. So I'm going to be generating these leads.
Sorry, I have to get Holly.
Oh, it's okay. I'm going to generate these leads. I'm going to ask them the questions. I'm going to have the sellers make us the offers. When I have some offers and I have some deals working on, I'm going to reach out to Joe and say, hey, Joe, I think I have a deal. I have a seller who says, yes, they're open to seller financing. They're motivated because they've already moved out of state and this house is sitting here vacant. Right. And if we make that deal, I will pay you handsomely for that deal. If it's not me, other investors would too. But also in those leads that you're going to get, I'm going to also find some wholesale deals, which is the very first deal I did when I got a check for $12,733 23 years ago. You know, I was like 22 years old. I was broke. I had bad credit and had zilch. I mean, I'm talking, I probably had like $300 in my pocket. And when I got that check for almost $13,000 clear money, I thought I was rich. I thought I hit the lotto, y'all. So I would wholesale and I would look for some terms deals and I would find people like myself and others who are awesome and find out where they're looking for deals. And I'd start searching in that area. So if I know Jesse's up in Alaska, boy, I'm going to be looking at Alaska groups. And I say, hey, Jesse, I got a deal. It's in Alaska. It's in Anchorage. They're open to seller financing. And he'd probably love to have a deal like that. Just delivered to him in a platter, right? We all would. So that's what I would do, Brian. And within, I don't know, a couple of months, you could have a deal. Get that first check, reinvest it. And if I were to reinvest it, I'd reinvest it into education, more learning how to do more of those deals without money. And then it grows. Because when I started, I am telling you guys, Some of you might not know, some of you do. I grew up sub-middle class. I grew up in an area where it was just over the border where we're in a suburban town, but like the end of my street was like a completely different school district. And I grew up with not a lot of stuff. I got picked on for having, poor parents and all that stuff. So when I tell you I started from scratch, I mean, I legitimately started from nothing. I never went to college. So to make the kind of income that we do now, back when I was 18 years old, starting off, 19, 20 years old, starting off, I could never imagine. If you told me at 45 I'd be making this, I would call you a liar. Okay. So that's how I would start. And I would just spend the money on an education of how to learn how to do real estate, not going to college necessarily. It wasn't for me anyways. But I would spend that money because I'll tell you, every time that we spend money on coaches, it gets us to where we got to go much faster. And we always have a coach. We are always in a mastermind. Always, always, always. There's not a point where Jenn and I are not. And every single year, if you saw what we spent on coaches and masterminds, it'd make some of you puke. But it's worth every single cent. I will say that times and times over. Colton, great question. Does an LLC hold a land trust, or is it the other way around? So the land trust, or I'm sorry, when I buy a property, I put the deed under a land trust name or under a land trust. I name that land trust the property address. So it's no fancy name for me. On a land trust, it's going to ask you who is the beneficiary, who benefits from that trust, who gets all the money, right? That's my LLC. So my land trust owns one property and one property only. Who is the beneficiary of that land trust? My LLC. You need a trustee. The trustee is the person who could sign for it all. The trustee cannot be you if you own that first LLC. So you got to find somebody else to do it. And it can't be like a list of all these people. However, there's a loophole. If you own another LLC, that entity could be the trustee. So I have one LLC who is just the trustee for everything. And all that trustee does is just sign for everything. That's all that bad boy does. Doesn't even have a bank account. Just signs for everything. That's one of my LLCs. So now I can sign for everything and I could control the pen, right? I don't have to call up my uncle or cousin or neighbor to say, oh, I need you to sign more papers. So that's how I set that up. Can you help me on a creative deal? I have a potential lead and need some help. I'm a wholesaler, direct to seller. I'm in Houston, Texas, and Sacramento, California markets. Please reach out to me. Booyah. See, look at that. Already in here. We certainly will be if somebody doesn't beat me to the punch. Looks like we got some already coming in here. So that's what we're here for, guys. We're here to make these connections. Ron is the GOAT, greatest of all time. I agree with you, Club. Ron is the absolute best. And I love him because he's 76 years old. And we were hanging out with him last time. He is still making deals today. And he does not need it. Trust me. He does it because he's a lifer and I'm the same way. Jesse, this is fire right here. I don't make offers. That is correct. That is some of Ron's best training, is ask great questions and have the seller make you the offer. I'm not going to lie. We did change our scripts from what he taught us because technology is a little bit better now. And I didn't love the sequence. I'm a big sequence person. And I found ours is super easy. That when my wife and I'll tell you some real stories now, she's especially not here. When we very first started, I was working full time in the car dealership. And the whole mission was to bring Joe home because she got to walk away from teaching a decade before that. So the mission to bring Joe home was she was going to start helping with some real estate stuff while I'm at work and then bring me some of the things to call when I got out of work. Well, when I had Jenn start looking at these scripts that these other people are giving us, it was like a dictionary, right? And it'd be so confusing. Like if the seller says yes, go to page 6. If they say no, go to 78. And so she's flipping through this thing like, oh my, they said, whoa, hold on. And it was just frustrating as can be. Too many questions, getting on the phone with every one of them. So we realized some of the things with the process, we didn't love it. So we just modernize it now. And we realized talking through Messenger on Facebook, I could talk to way more people through messaging, way faster, way easier, and then only kind of sift out the ones I want to talk to and not have to talk to everyone, which is some of the group you don't want to talk to. So Yeah, that's been the key to success. Got to run. Thank you, Dane, for stopping out. Is there a resource to get a simple wrap agreement or at least person option? Okay, so here's the deal with a wrap agreement. You guys don't need it. There isn't a wrap agreement. When you buy a deal, and this is where I tell everybody, if I'm in Tampa, I'm going to find out what the common agreement is that the realtors use in this area, and I'm going to get that agreement. I could get that from a realtor, I get it from an attorney, a title company, wherever. They'll give it to you in a PDF for free. Get that sucker. Get familiar with it. And every one of these, there's usually either an addendum, which is a separate paper outside of their contract, they could go with it, or it's written in the original contract, a seller finance option. Because every agreement is going to say, are you paying cash or are you financing? And almost everyone has a seller finance option too. Just click the seller financing option and put in the terms that you agreed on. I write in the notes in the bottom, buying on a wrap. You send that to a attorney or a title company once you have it written up with yourself and a seller, and you send that to them. Because what's a purchase and sale agreement? That doesn't mean it's closed. All that means are these are the tentative terms that we agreed on. And I'm going to send that to an attorney now or a title company to draft up the wrap, to draft up all the closing docs. Joe's not writing wrap mortgages. I'll be honest with you guys, I don't even write up agreements anymore. Lexi does that for us. So when you're writing up a wrap agreement, you're not doing that. A title company is going to do that for you, or a lawyer will do that for you at closing. That's when that gets done. If I'm just going to write up this initial terms, there's no special contracts needed. You just write them up in any area. Some agreements will say they're non-assignable. So if you're going to plan on keeping it, that's not a problem for you. If you're planning on signing it, just make sure that's not in there or you cross that clause out. Who gets the equity in a rent to own situation at the time of sale? Do the rent payments go towards their equity? Okay, Jesse, great questions here. So, when we do rent to own, guys, they give me a non-refundable option deposit for moving in. And then they're going to pay rent until they're able to qualify for a mortgage. None of the rent goes towards the purchase. It's just rent for living there. We have two agreements. One's a rental agreement. Just says you're renting and that you're responsible for all that stuff and don't go crazy, right? The second one is going to be the option price, the price that they're able to buy it at. Easy peasy. It just says they could buy it at $200,000 or whatever that number is. I will tell you, anything they do pay above their rent goes towards their non-refundable option deposit. So I've got some folks who, if your rent's $1,500, but they want to pay $2,000 every month because they want that $500 going to their non-refundable option deposit, collect that in two separate payments every month. $1,500 rent, $500 getting added to their non-refundable option deposit. So now when you have your buyer looking to get a mortgage years later, you're going to be able to separate it, show the log of all that coming in, only accept payments electronically if you can. It is 2023, almost 2024. If you're collecting cash, don't do that. If you're collecting checks, stop doing that. Do it all on a free service. There's tons of them out there. And when your renter is ready to buy, we just email them the stuff showing the records of them doing that. Easy peasy. Do you owe your seller the original purchase price? You make the spread between that and what's left over when you sell it for. So I guess Colton on that one,
That was an answer to the other guy, the question.
Oh, thank you so much. Your opening call script is awesome. Highly recommended. Anyone download? Thank you so much. Awesome comments, guys. And I got one of the coolest text messages this week. I shared it on my Facebook page, but legitly, like, somebody reached out to me out of the blue and was like, "Hey, I've been using your blue ad and your scripts that you did on Bigger Pockets, and I got a deal from that. Create a finance deal." I've got some other folks of ours who I know who are buying their primary residence that they got from that blue ad. They just made a deal on that they're going to live in that house. This is a completely different one. So this blue ad works, guys. If you're not using it, you should be. And for me personally, I would put it into 5 to 10 Facebook groups every single day. Easy peasy. If you get to the leads as fast as possible, do it. But if not the end of the world. Just get to them as fast as you can. I'm in Tampa and looking to sell a house, not to me cash, looking for a buyer, may rent while rehab takes place. And the final say, how do I write something up like that? to a prospective buyer. Well, I might buy it. Send me that message, please. iPad 10, whoever you are. Message me at Joe Delle Fave at Instagram or on Facebook, and I'd love to chat more about that. Or, I mean, shoot, just call me right on my cell phone, 585-207-2240. Send me a text message. I'd love to talk to you about that Tampa deal. I might want to buy it. So cool. I think I got all my messages, guys. Well, cool. I got some work to do. Lexi's writing up a deal right now. And you know what we always say, guys, time kills deals. So when the iron's hot, it's time to strike. We got a seller who needs some help. So in the meantime, if you guys some questions, guys, pop them in every single, I think Thursday it drops. What are your questions? We go live and I love answering those too. So look out for those if you drop those questions on our Thursday in our group. Meanwhile, YouTube, creativefinanceplaybook.com.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
So I interrupt. The iPad direct messaged me on accident. They needed to repeat your cell phone number.
Oh, 585-207-2240. Thanks, Colton. We got something coming for you too, buddy. So keep your eyes peeled. All right, gang. Thank you so much. And I'll wait to talk to you guys soon. I got a bunch of stuff going on today. So let's have a productive week. Okay. Super easy. We just take one small step at a time. I'm going to tell you the KPIs we track real quick. How many leads did you generate in the week? Some of you are some of our clients. I know some of you are in here. So you're probably sick of me saying this. How many leads do you generate in a week? How many sellers did you talk to? How many offers did you make? And then how many deals are getting accepted? Right? Because I'll tell you what, if your business, and this is just a fun way to think about it, if I didn't make any deals, how many offers did you make? You didn't make any. Okay. How many sellers did you get on the phone with? I didn't get on the phone with any. Okay. How many leads did you get? Joe, I didn't get any leads. Well, I could tell you didn't do any marketing. Just put those Facebook leads out there, guys. Those ads we talk about, you'll get leads. Get them through that script. Get on the phones with the good ones. Get some offers on the table. You'll get them accepted. It happens all of the time. So glad to be out here today, guys. Look forward to chatting with you more. It's time for me to fly. Have a wonderful Tuesday. Thank you all for coming so much. I sincerely appreciate that on a Tuesday you're spending with us, and I love it. And if I could help any one of you, please, you got my cell phone number. I just dropped it twice. If not, pick it up on the recall or on the rerun, and we'll see you guys soon. All right. Have a wonderful day. I'm going to ring the bell. See you guys. Have a good one.